Welcome into the Davis Football Show, everyone. My name is Nick Davis, and we're here with my brother Rob in the Davis Studios. Thank you so much for listening today. We are going to be covering all things football for you sports fans. This is the DFS. Welcome back, all you sports fans. Thank you, everyone, again for listening to us. It appears our last podcast was the most listened out of them all since we started this not so long ago. Rob is with me here, and we are ready to dive into the NFL schedules. Rob, it looks like the football season is going to happen, don't you think?
I think so. I'm just not sure if it's going to start on time, and there's probably won't be no fans in the stadium.
We had some UFC fights last night. Did you watch any of those?
I watched some of it, but not all of it. It just feels really good to have some type of sports back.
Right, something live, something fresh, something other than a replay from the 1990s. I mean, come on. Let's give the NFL and Roger Goodell just some props for pulling this off and making it happen. Goodell and the NFL are just operating business as usual, people. This is what it is. And, at the end of the day, the NFL is a business, and they're looking to make money. And they mainly work for the TV networks because they write them the biggest checks. Any business is going to make special requests for their largest client, and the TV networks who need them the most right now are writing the checks. So the NFL is giving them every inclination, it seems like, that they're going to have a season and to give them, the product that is so eagerly needed by so many people. The NFL ratings are significantly doing laps around every other major sport, and it's not even close. And I can only imagine what the ratings will be this fall if there is a season, given the fact that everyone's home and other sports aren't even playing. Rob, you have any thoughts on that?
Like you said, business as usual. And I just want to say, Goodell been doing a really good job with everything during this pandemic, like the draft and free agency, even though when people was against it.
And there's always going to be those people on Twitter who criticize and critique, like, man, Goodell this, Goodell that. And it's the same with every other commissioner and every other sport. And, I just give them credit, the NFL, for saying, we don't care. Like, we don't care what you guys think. Like, we're writing these checks and we're out here to profit. And Goodell ultimately works for the owners of these franchises, and since he's taken over, he just has been making them, they're printing cash. They are printing so much cash. So getting into this week's episode, Rob, we are going to be covering the NFL schedule. It was just released last week, and man, there's so many games that I'm just so jacked up about. We're going to talk about the Thursday night primetime games and how that game ended up flourishing in the recent years versus when it first came out years ago. The Thursday night game always been like a joke game. And it seems like lately they're actually putting some quality teams on, some big time names, and some big time games are being played. We're going to dive into the Sunday night games. Those are the prime time. The 20 million people flock to their TVs to watch the Sunday night games. These Sunday night games. And then we're going to dive into Monday night games. And, years ago, Rob, I know, we know how big Monday Night Football was. And it seems like in the past few years, they kind of slowed down a little bit. I know a lot of people are knocking ESPN, and a lot of people are knocking the commentator crew with Booger. But I think that this year, there's some games on Monday night that, millions and millions of people are going to tune in to see.
Right, with that new crew coming in on Monday night, I hope Pat McAfee makes it on that crew. Also, with the Thursday night games, it feels like in the past, it's always like they didn't always put the best games on Thursday night. It feels like there was always the Jaguars playing like every other Thursday night game.
And for all of you Jacksonville fans, I just want you to know that I'm sorry and we feel for you, because you typically get like that Thursday night game that no one watches, and I'm sorry. But you just got to be better. I mean, you don't get to draft in the top 10 for 10 straight years and get rid of half your players and still be. Anyways, let's move on. We're going to also try to recap here with games that we feel are going to have the biggest impact outside of the primetime slots. That can possibly maybe be flexed later down the schedule. And then we're also going to cover teams who we feel have the easiest schedule going throughout the year as of right now, and a few teams that we feel have the hardest schedules in both the AFC and NFC. So we got a lot on our plate, Rob. Let's get this ball rolling down the hill here. So starting off the Thursday night schedule on week 2 of the season is the Battle of Ohio. We got Burrow in Cleveland. We got Mayfield out there trying to prove himself in his spot, along with the number 1 draft pick taking the field. It should be pretty exciting.
The number 1 draft pick in Joe Burrow in his first primetime game. And then on the other side, you got the Cleveland Browns trying to prove themselves. They were a big disappointment last year, so they're trying to bounce back this year.
Trust me, I don't think anyone was more disappointed than me. I was on that Cleveland Brown hype train. I jumped on the bandwagon.
Didn't you buy a jersey
rode
too?
it for 6 weeks. I was going to buy an Odell jersey and got talked out of it, and I'm so glad I did. But I have a lot of Cleveland fans. I have a lot of Cleveland friends who are fans, and a matter of fact, we're going to have a few of them on next week to talk a little bit in depth on Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see them turn it around if they can. But I think if they don't do it this year, clean house and start over. Baker, Odell, Jarvis, everyone, clean house and start over.
I don't think they got a clean house. They still got a good young core. They still got at least another year after this one if it don't work out this year.
All right, so after week 2, we got Miami going to Jacksonville for week 3 on Thursday night. Then we have the Broncos, who have a newly improved offense, going to the New York Jets. Hopefully they're going to be able to play there in New York. That's week 4 on Thursday night. Number 5 is the next game I want to talk about, Rob. Week 5, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady going to the Chicago Bears and to verse that tough defense. How do you feel that they're going to hold up?
So the weather in Chicago isn't going to be cold yet, but this is the Bucs' first primetime game, so they get to show off the new team on primetime also with the Bears. I don't know if Mitch is going to be starting or Foles is going to be starting, but they get this is their first primetime game also, so they get to show off what they got too.
Yeah, exactly. After a few weeks, depending on how the Bears do and who starts off the year, so hypothetically Mitch starts off and they go, 0-4 or 1-3, like we could easily see Foles make his debut in this game. It should be pretty exciting. Coming off a short week, though, it's going to be tough, but I'm pretty hyped for that game. Week 6, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. This can easily be a AFC playoff preview.
Same thing with the Bills. They got a really talented team, but a lot of people don't take them as serious Super Bowl contenders, so they get to go up against the world champs on primetime.
I see them as a real contender. I think last year they had that game against Houston in the bag, and then they would have went to Kansas City where they would have competed, but I think they were young. They made a lot of mistakes that they're not going to make next year, and I think the overall season is just going to be so much better to put them in a better position in the playoff to go ahead and win, maybe get some home games. And I'm excited for Buffalo. Week 7 and Week 8 are both divisional games, which are going to be, any divisional team that plays each other hard. You got New York against Philly and then Atlanta against Carolina. Moving into Week 9, this is a big one I think everyone has circled on their calendars. Thursday night, you got Green Bay against San Francisco. Now remember, last year, these teams played each other twice. Once in the regular season and again in the NFC Championship game. To go to the Super Bowl in San Francisco, I'm not going to cut it short here, Rob. They kicked the shit out of Green Bay twice. And I think Green Bay, all offseason long, was hoping to build something on defense to help stop that San Francisco offense, because it was clear their defense was the liability in both those games, preventing them to go to the Super Bowl twice in one season. And they went with a backup quarterback and then a running back in the draft, which is why Green Bay fans are so upset.
Green Bay didn't get much better in the offseason, so I see another blowout by the 49ers in this one.
All right, the next 2 weeks, week 10 and 11, again, are two divisional weeks. We got the Indianapolis Colts against the Tennessee Titans, and then we got the Arizona Cardinals against the Seattle Seahawks, who I think is going to be a closer game than a lot of people think. I mean, 11 weeks in, Kyler Murray with D-Hop, Larry Fitz, and that offense, I mean, I don't know.
The Cardinals are a really interesting team for me. I'm not sure if they'll be able to get it together this season and be a playoff team, or they might be picking in the top 5. They might be picking in the top 10 again in next year's draft.
All right, week 13, Thursday night, we got the Dallas Cowboys going to the Baltimore Ravens. I think that this game has significance because of the power of both of these NFL brands. But I think on the field, competition-wise, it's not even close. I think Baltimore is going to completely destroy Dallas in this matchup.
You're a lot lower than me on the Dallas Cowboys. I got the Dallas Cowboys. They're a really talented team. I feel like they have a chance to be like the top 3 seed, a top 3 seed
What?
in the NFC.
No, who's playing quarterback?
Dak's playing quarterback.
Oh, all right, top 3. Who's 1 and 2?
San Francisco and the Saints probably the top 2 seeds in the NFC, and Cowboys might be right after them.
I just think Dallas is a mess, especially with a new head coach this year. There's going to be tension and issues. Let's move on to week 14. We got the New England Patriots going to the LA Rams. Now they're flying across country here for this Thursday night game on a short week. I think that gives them a huge disadvantage. New England a disadvantage, and I think again Thursday night in LA. I mean, what you think?
So the thing with this game, the Patriots played the Chargers the week before. So 4 days after that, they're gonna play the Rams. So they're gonna stay in LA for that whole time.
That's actually a really good analogy, Rob. I didn't even realize that. So yeah, if they stay out in LA, they won't have to rush out there or anything. I really thought that travel with a short week would be a problem. But yeah, if they're out there, then maybe not.
But still, being away from home for a long time is still tough.
For sure. And then week 15, we got the LA Chargers against the Las Vegas Raiders in that new stadium, which we're actually going to get to a bunch talking about the Sunday and Monday night games.
So this game might be the only primetime game the Raiders are going to win this year because the other 3 are really tough.
And they got some big boy teams coming in there. Hopefully they don't embarrass themselves. I just want to throw this in, tie this into the Thursday schedule. There's going to be a game on Friday, December 25th. That's Christmas Day. Typically, Christmas Day is for the NBA, and there's a bunch of big time NBA games, and in between presents and Christmas dinner, we're watching basketball. But the NFL, again, stepping on everybody's throat like they've been doing for the past 20 years, is putting a game on Friday, which is going to be pretty exciting, I think. So we're going to have football Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that weekend, which I just think is going to completely cripple the competition.
Yeah, when's the last time they put a football game on Christmas?
I don't think. I don't know the year, but I would assume the last time Christmas fell on a Sunday.
Well, yeah, besides like when Christmas is on a Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think they ever put a game on Christmas outside of it being on a Sunday, which is unique, and it's something that a lot like basketball. Like I think they're trying to just compete with that space, and I think they're again, Goodell is just doing such a phenomenal job to print cash for the NFL.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is going to become a normal thing, throwing a football game on Christmas.
Oh, yeah, I think, yep, I agree with you 100%. And I heard something on another football podcast where they were mentioning how sports on holidays gives you a connection to that game and to that sport. Like, everyone remembers the year that X versus Y on Thanksgiving happened on this year. You understand what I'm saying? To where you have that memory of this game on this holiday, because you always remember the holiday and having football just be associated with that the way it's been for Thanksgiving, I think is absolutely phenomenal.
Having that game on Christmas, just that game would just be a part of that family's Christmas memory for that year. Also they get a chance to watch the game with family members they don't usually watch football with.
Yep, and I think that putting a football game on Christmas is going to be the largest rated game with the most viewers over all the basketball games that are playing. And it's also going to diminish the ratings on those basketball games. It's going to be it's definitely a flex, another flex by the NFL. All right, so let's go into Sunday night, and Sunday night football is, obviously a big favorite of ours. Al Michaels and Collinsworth, they're my guys. But I think that there's so many big time games on Sunday nights, and for those who watch and follow, understand, like Sunday nights is when the big game happens for the week. Typically, it's normally the game of the week, but the upcoming schedule for this year, man, like I just get excited just reading them off. So week 1, we're going to kick off the season Sunday night in LA in the brand new stadium at SoFi, with the Dallas Cowboys coming into town, who Jerry Jones, the owner of Dallas, pushed to put a team in LA and pushed to get that stadium built with those naming rights. It's like you just gotta understand the significance of this game here.
This game is going to be the first time a team open up a new stadium and the opposing team is going to have more fans in it.
that might be true. It's LA is not a loyal market, I should say. Like there's fans. LA have fans of all over the country because it's what people see as a migration city. Like a lot of people go to LA, didn't grow up in LA, so they're fans from Chicago who then moved to LA, and they're still Bears fans or Packer fans or Dallas fans. It's just how it is in that market, but LA gotta have some juice about that new stadium too. I mean, they had the Coliseum rocking on a number of nights last year.
The Rams still got fans, but I mean, this is the Cowboys. This is probably the biggest fan base in the NFL. So yeah, there'd definitely be more Cowboy fans than Rams fans that night.
And I think this first week actually kind of sets the tone for the Rams too. If they flop here week 1, they're going to have a long road ahead of them because they're in a division with Seattle twice. They played San Francisco twice. If you can't beat the Cowboys, like you can kind of guarantee you're about to lose to those teams, and you also play the Cardinals, who are no joke. And I mean the Rams will have a very difficult year if they can't knock off Dallas here week 1. So moving into week 2, we got Seattle and New England in Seattle, who, again, this is the stadium of the 12th man. For those of you who don't know, there's only 11 players from each team at one time on a football field, but the Seattle Seahawks stadium is so loud that they call their fans the 12th man on the field because it's a significant disadvantage. So I can only imagine how this game will go in Seattle week 2 Sunday night if we can't put fans in the stadium.
Man, a Sunday night game in CenturyLink Field with no fans without the 12th man, that'll be something crazy to see.
The 12th man, no more. The 12th man is dead. All right, week 3. This is also another big game. This could easily be a playoff preview. Rodgers versus Brees, 2 older quarterbacks looking for another ring before they're gone from the game forever as we know it. Green Bay at New Orleans.
Same with this one. Seeing a Superdome with no fans in it, that'll be something crazy to see, but it'll still be a good game no matter what.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Week 4, man, we're looking at playoff game after playoff game after potentially NFC Championship previews here. Eagles at San Francisco in San Fran.
This is a good chance for the Eagles to show off that new receiving group against a really good defense in Sunday night in prime time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right here. Like I got the Eagles pretty high this year, largely in part due to their schedule. I think it's one of the easiest in the league, but I think that they are a force to be reckoned with. I had them in my top five power rankings last week. All right, week 5 we have the Minnesota Vikings at the Seattle Seahawks. This is a pretty defense uh, a defensive battle, I would say. Two very experienced, tenured defensive teams and coaches fighting together against offensives that are both good, but I wouldn't call either one high power. But both want to run the ball and play defense, and I think this is going to be a tough old school game of football.
Defense and running the football is what these two teams love to do.
All right, jump into week 6. We got the Battle of California, the LA Rams against the San Francisco 49ers. This is going to generate just so much buzz, so much hype. I mean, I think if they can fill the stadium here, it's going to be sold out, and tickets are going to be like $800 a pop.
I don't think it's going to be that big. I mean, the Rams, they're a good team, but I don't think they bring in a really big draw. They might even be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, I mean, week 6 though, it's going to be tough to rule them out. Like I think they're going to have a couple wins in by week 6, and this game may be the factor whether they're going down one road or another.
It's a really important game for them, but just like it's a draw, I don't think it's going to be a really big draw. I feel like there's way bigger primetime games going on.
Yeah, well, not one of the biggest primetime games, but look, the Rams got the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Bills, the Giants, the Redskins right before this San Fran game. So I think they can beat Dallas. They might lose to the Eagles and the Bills, but then they got the Giants and Redskins. They could easily be 3-2 going into this game with San Fran, and depending on how San Francisco plays. I mean, they also play the Eagles in that first batch of games. So this could be for top of the division. All right, let's move on. Week 7, we have Tampa Bay, Tom Brady going into the new Las Vegas Stadium to play the Raiders.
Yeah, another big home game for the Raiders in their new stadium.
The Raiders got a lot of these. Do you think they're on primetime so much because of the new stadium, because of the new city, because of Gruden, or because the team's that good?
I feel like it's all besides the team being that good. Like Gruden's
I
well
was
known.
I was just about to say I don't think the Raiders are that good.
No, it's mostly because Gruden is a big name coach and they want to show off that brand new stadium they got in Vegas.
All right, we got week 8. We got Dallas going into Philadelphia to play the Eagles. I think this is going to be for first place in the division here in week 8. Like the winner of this game is going to take control of the division, and it's going to be their division to lose going into the second half of the year.
Yeah, big game for both teams in the NFC East.
Week 9, we got another divisional game: the Saints against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Breeze versus Brady. Legend on legend, Hall of Famer on Hall of Famer. This can be, if the Bucs are any good, or if the Bucs are anything like how good we think they're going to be, then this is going to be one hell of a game.
To me, this is the best Sunday night game that they have. I'm really excited to see it. You get to see Tom Brady and his new team against the Saints in the same division. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean this is probably one of the best here on Sunday night. Week 10 is also a good game with a ton of history. We got the Baltimore Ravens going into the New England Patriots, and I know you know all about this rivalry, Rob, with Tom Brady and Baltimore, and offense versus defense for over a decade here. But new quarterback, Brady's gone. The Ravens also look different too from back then. They actually have a quarterback who can run around a little bit.
Yeah, this is the game I think the Ravens are going to be giving out a beating, just because I don't see if Stedman's still the quarterback, I don't see him coming in and doing much.
What Ravens game do you think isn't going to be a beating?
I mean, they're not going to run through the schedule easy. I mean, versus the Steelers, versus the Browns, versus the Chiefs. Those aren't going to be beatings. Those are going to be tough games. But, I mean, They're gonna blow out a couple teams though.
Oh, okay. That's what I've been taking from our conversations here. But we're actually going to get into the Ravens with our schedules here in a little bit.
And the Patriots are coming off a short week, so I know preparing for that Ravens offense is difficult than other teams. So it's going to be a tough job for the Patriots.
Yeah, and coming off to play any team on a short week is always tough. But coming in to play a team as physical as Baltimore, a lot of people just want no part of. Week 11, Sunday night, we got a divisional game, Kansas City versus the Las Vegas Raiders, again in the new stadium.
Another primetime game for the Raiders, another L for the Raiders.
Week 12, this is, one of my favorite. What people call the biggest rivalry in sports is the Chicago Bears against the Green Bay Packers up here in Lambeau.
Another one, a divisional game, really big for both teams. This game could decide whoever comes in first in the division.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's funny because they actually play again the last game of the year. But we'll get into that in a little while also. Week 13, we have the Denver Broncos, who I think is going to be I think they're going to be pretty good this year. And this game being late in the year only gives that young offense more time to play together, to work on timing and become more efficient. I think they went speed heavy in the draft to run with Kansas City, and they get their shot to put it on display here in Week 13.
I feel the same way about the Broncos. They're going to be a really good team this year. The offense is much improved. The defense is going to come back strong, so it's a good test for them to go up against the world champs.
All right, Week 14, we have an AFC matchup, Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. Week 15, we have an AFC matchup, or NFC matchup, the San Francisco 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. And then Week 16, we have the Tennessee Titans against the Green Bay Packers. And I think this game was placed here just due to both teams being playoff teams last year. And this game may have some playoff implications pending the records of these two teams. I think both of these teams aren't going to be bad, but I think they're not going to be all that great. I think both of these teams are going to be wild card teams if they end up making the playoffs. And this game in Week 16 can actually determine one of those teams making the playoffs or not.
I got a feeling by this time the Titans will be out of the playoff hunt because I'm not really that high on them this year. So I don't think they'll be in the playoff hunt this year. So this is for the Packers. The Packers got a chance to clinch the division this night.
I think if the Titans are out of the playoff picture at this point, they flex this game with some other games in Week 16. I think there are just too many good ones to hold them to hold that game there.
Yeah, if the Titans are out of it, this game's 100% getting flexed.
All right, let's go into Monday night. So again, I really hope Monday night actually lives up to the hype and gets back to the level of star power that it had years ago. Week 2, I'm skipping over Week 1 because it's actually 2 games on Monday night, Week 1, just because there aren't any bye weeks as of yet. And we have the Steelers versus Titans and then the Giants against the Broncos. The Giants are going to have a tough time with that high altitude Week 1. Let's jump to Week 2. We have Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints going into Las Vegas and the Raiders to open up that brand new stadium.
Yeah, this is a really tough game for the Raiders to open up. They're probably gonna lose on opening night.
The Raiders are actually in Carolina Week 1, so this will be the absolute first game in that new stadium. And I just hope that there's fans in that stadium. All right, Week 3, we have your favorite here. We got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. That is going to be these are two of the best teams in the NFL, and I think this game can determine the number 1 seed in Week 3 of the season. Can you believe that?
To me, these are the 2 best teams in the NFL right now. And I really hope there's fans in the stadium because the last 2 times the Ravens played the Chiefs, it was in Kansas City. So I want to see them play in the bank. Maybe it'll be a different outcome this time.
All right, in Week 4, we have Atlanta and Green Bay. Again, 2 veteran QBs looking for one last Super Bowl before they're out of the league for good. We got Matt Ryan and Rodgers.
Matt Ryan and Rodgers, they got some little bit of playoff history playing against each other. So, I expect this to be a really good game.
Yeah, this could be a playoff preview. I think both divisions are loaded with the NFC North and NFC South. But it pairs up to be a really good matchup early in the year. Week 5, we have the LA Chargers and the Saints. Drew Brees against his old team in the Chargers, and again continuing to compile success on him.
I got a feeling at this point Herbert's going to be the starter by week 5, so I think so. This is going to be Herbert's first chance in primetime to show off what he got.
Yeah, that if that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know. Week 6, we have the Cardinals at Dallas, and hey, I got the Cardinals here. I think Murray is going to go in there to Texas, where he started his college journey, and he's going to light it up.
I got it the other way. I got the Cowboys having a convincing win against the Cardinals this night.
We'll see. Week 7, we got our hometown Bears. They're actually going to go out to California and play the Rams, who, I love this McVay-Nagy matchup. I mean, I think, these are two of the young offensive coaches in the league who are so creative. And I think the past 2 games, they each got a win on each other, and this always is a fun game.
I don't know if Mitch or Foles going to be the starter at this point, but yeah, it should be a pretty fun game.
All right, moving into Week 8, we have Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up to New York to play the Giants, who have taken the only 2 Super Bowls from Tom Brady. Now, Eli isn't there, but the franchise and the history still remains.
This is an old player going up against an old coach in Tom Brady and Joe Judge.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another good connection there. Week 9, we have the New England Patriots playing the New York Jets in East Rutherford.
This might be the first time in a long time that the Jets beat up the Patriots in the primetime game.
Yeah.
Get some revenge.
Week 10, this could be for the NFC North right here. We got the Chicago Bears at home against the Minnesota Vikings.
Another really important division game for both teams.
Yeah, I think the Bears just have had so much success against Minnesota recently. Like, even that one game where the Chicago was benching starters and they still won. It ended up just working out, or always seems to work out against Minnesota. Week 11, we have the LA Rams going into Tampa Bay to play Tom Brady. Here in Week 11, the playoff picture is probably shaping out here, and this is a critical win for both teams in the NFC. All right, next we have in Week 12. We have another playoff picture rematch, I believe, in the NFC with the Seattle Seahawks at the Philadelphia Eagles.
The big game for both teams. You got Russell Wilson going up against Carson Wentz.
Yep, and if you could remember the playoffs last year, these 2 teams faced off, and Carson Wentz went out with a concussion. The Seahawks ended up winning and moving on to the next round. Some believe if Carson Wentz never got hurt, the Eagles would have ended up moving on to the next round instead of Seattle. So there's some definitely revenge here. Week 13, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Buffalo Bills. One team from each conference, but both projected to be very good teams and deep in the playoffs. This can possibly be 2 number 1 seeds facing off here in Week 13.
Another chance for the Bills to prove themselves in a primetime game against a really good team. So we'll see if they can pull out the win. All
right, now in Week 14, we got a AFC North matchup with the Baltimore Ravens in the dog pound in Cleveland against the Browns. And then December 21st, Week 15, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals, another AFC North matchup. And then to wrap up the year, it's going to be a cold one here. December 28th, Week 16, the Buffalo Bills against the New England Patriots in Gillette. That can possibly be for the AFC East Division.
The Bills clinched the division against the Patriots in Foxborough. I thought I'd never see that day.
Yeah, watch it happen. All right. So that wraps up all of our primetime games. And I know it's a lot, but I mean, every single week it seems like a quality game. And the ones that, depending on some fluky stuff happening, and the NFL has the ability to flex a high-power game in there mid-season, later in the season. I mean, we're just in for a ride. And, man, I just pray that we actually get the opportunity to have the full atmosphere with fans in the buildings, because these games are going to be 20 million people plus tuning in.
The primetime schedules look really good. It just, yeah, hopefully they can have the fans in the stadiums because the fans in the stadium makes a huge difference.
All right, Rob, let's shift to this. Let's talk about some of the easiest schedules we've seen in the NFL.
So the easiest schedule I have is the Ravens. Somehow they got a really easy schedule this year. Even coming off the 14-2 season, they do the least amount of traveling. They don't really leave the East time zone. They don't got no West Coast games. They leave the East Coast like twice, and one of them's the Texans, and the other one's the Colts. And the Colts game they're coming off a bye. And the toughest road game they have is going into Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving, I think. So, yeah, they got real lucky this year with an easy schedule, so they got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think this schedule is the easiest in the NFL. Like, the NFL gods just came down and helped Lamar and the Ravens out. One of my easiest teams is also one of the best teams last year, who you would assume is going to have a pretty tough schedule, is San Francisco. Part of that has to do with them playing the Cardinals twice, but it also has a lot to do with them playing the NFC East, where, they play the Giants and they play the Cowboys, and then they also play the Washington Redskins, and then they go to the AFC East, where they play the Jets and they play Miami and they play Brady-less Patriots. I mean, I think they're just a lot of I don't want to call them layups, because there's some really good teams, but they're not playing powerhouses outside of the two Seattle games. I think they got a pretty easy schedule lined up for them. They do play the Saints, but I don't think the Rams are going to be as good as everyone thinks, and I don't think Green Bay is going to be as good as everyone thinks. Philly and the Saints with the two Seattle games are really their four biggest matchups.
And the 49ers start the season with a really easy schedule. They play the Cardinals, Jets, Giants, Eagles, and the Dolphins. So, they could start off 5-0 really easy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another great point. What other team do you see have a pretty easy schedule?
So I got the Steelers in the same division. Like, same thing with the Ravens. They don't do much traveling. They don't got no West Coast games. They barely leave the Eastern time zone. They stay real close to home most of the year. So, and they play the NFC East. So I feel most of the teams that play the NFC East got an easy schedule, because that's not a really strong division. So I think the Steelers, they could be up there in number 3 in power rankings. They could be the third best team in the AFC behind the Chiefs and the Ravens.
All right. I got another team who has a pretty easy schedule, and I may feel this way simply because I think the NFC East is not that strong. If it's anything how it was last year, I'm going to be absolutely right. But it's the Philadelphia Eagles. They play the Washington Redskins twice, and they also play the New York Giants twice. So, in my opinion, that's 4 wins right there. And then they play Dallas twice, who I think they absolutely beat at least once, if not sweep them also, depending on how their year goes. So that is easily, another 1 or 2 wins. Let's just call it 1. That's 5 wins just in the division. If they go 5-1 in the division, they own the tiebreaker. And then listen to these other teams that they play outside the division. The Cincinnati Bengals. Come on. The LA Rams, who I think is a good team, but they do have some question marks. Well, they play Cleveland, who we all know has many question marks. They play Green Bay, who I don't think is going to be as good as they were last year. And then they play the Arizona Cardinals, who, we understand that you could shred that defense too. So outside of the Saints, Baltimore, and San Francisco, I think Philly has a really easy schedule.
Yeah, so the thing with all these teams with easy schedules, they all play the NFC East. That's a really bad division, so they all got easy schedules.
Yeah, right. And if the NFC East ends up, being very good with, Washington ends up, taking some names, and New York ends up taking some names, then that's going to flip the script on a lot of people. Let's move over to the hardest schedules that you've seen, Rob.
All right, so my first team I got with a really hard schedule. I got the New England Patriots. I feel
Whoa,
like
whoa, whoa! Hold on. Will you be picking them if they still had Tom Brady?
yeah, I mean they'll still have a hard schedule if they had Tom Brady.
Okay, all right.
And I feel like they only put the Patriots down so many primetime games, not because they'll be good, because everyone want to see them lose, so it's gonna bring in a really big draw.
Yep, I'm on that bus. Just so you know.
Me too, me too. I'm sure a lot of people are.
So, what in New England's schedule makes you feel like they have one of the toughest?
I mean, they got a lot of tough road games. They go at Seattle, at the Chiefs, and then they got to go to Cali for those two straight games. So they're gonna be out there for a while, and then at home they got to play Baltimore at home. They got to bring the 49ers and play them, and it's gonna be tough for them.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. They play a lot of playoff teams. I think they lose a handful of those games. That's five, and I do think they lose one of those California games. So I mean that's six losses right off the bat there, and I think they end up dropping the ball on a few others. I mean they play the Bills twice, and Miami. Yeah, they're rebuilding, but they played them in week 15, which I think Miami is going to have their stuff together later in the year, and that's just going to make it very difficult to beat. Yeah, I got the Patriots being 8-8 at best. All right, a team that I have who have a pretty difficult schedule is the Carolina Panthers, and they have a look. They have a new coach. They have a new quarterback. They kicked Cam to the curb. They're making some moves, and I think all of those moves are going to cause just a bunch of distractions in the locker room. That isn't going to help their cause, but I don't think that's the only reason why. Um, Listen to these teams that I feel they have no chance in beating: Tampa Bay Bucks, the Chicago Bears, the Saints, the Chiefs, Tampa Bay again, the Vikings, Green Bay, the Saints again. I mean, this schedule is just, you know, pretty tough. You know, and that's just the games I think they were circling as guaranteed losses. They can drop the ball against Washington. They can drop the ball against the Broncos. They can drop the ball against Arizona, the Chargers, the Raiders. I mean, this team can easily only win three or four games this year, and they because I think they play a lot of tough teams, and a big part of that is simply being in the NFC or the NFC South.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I don't think they're gonna get a lot of wins this year with that schedule.
Another team, if I can just piggyback off that I think has a pretty tough schedule, is also in the NFC South, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. And I think the Carolina Panthers and Atlanta Falcons playing each other twice a year is really going to dictate who's the worst team. Because I think if one of these teams beat the other twice, that team that loses twice is going to be one of the worst in football because they play the Saints twice and the Bucks twice. So if you get swept by the third team, I mean that's six losses off the bat right in your division. And listen to some of these other names that Atlanta plays. They play Seattle, loss. Chicago, loss. Green Bay, loss. Minnesota, loss. Um, uh, Kansas City, loss. I mean, they just play some powerhouses that I think it's going to be very difficult for them. And I think with their situation at their coaching staff, like I think Quinn is on the hot seat. I think that they're one bad season away from them cleaning house and starting a rebuild. And I think that once they start losing a handful of games, like four or five, those question marks are going to start entering the building. And once you get on a losing streak, it's going to be so many questions and so many distractions that it's only going to allow for more mistakes and more issues. And speaking on getting off to a shaky start, they start the year at Seattle, Dallas, Chicago, Green Bay. I mean, they could easily be 0-4 going into October, and it's just going to be a mess. The coach might not even make the full year. He might get fired by Thanksgiving.
You're not really high on the Falcons. Um, I got them really high. They do start the season pretty tough, but I think they'll bounce back all right. I don't think they'll be as bad as you think. They're probably around like 7-9 or 8-8.
All right. So where do you have Carolina?
Carolina, damn, I don't know. I'll be surprised if they get more than 5 wins.
Okay. All right. Well, Rob, you have one more team with one of the most difficult schedules in the league.
So another team is the Jets with a really hard schedule. I mean, they got tough road games. They got to go to the Chargers. They got to go to the Chiefs, Rams, Seattle. They got a lot of tough road games, and they got a lot of traveling to do. They're all the way in the East Coast, so they got to fly out west a few times. And their division isn't really good, but I mean they still got to play Buffalo twice. They still got to go against the Patriots. So, yeah, the Jets going to be a tough year for the Jets, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the Patriots, the Bills, and Miami with um the Flores down there for a second year in Miami. I mean, those are going to be three very physical defensive teams. I mean, all three of those teams are going to be looking to punch you in the mouth.
Really tough games in their division also. And they still got to play the 49ers. They got to play the Broncos, Cardinals. So, I mean, those aren't easy games either. So, yep, tough year for them.
Man, Sam Darnold might be out there trying to get mono next year looking at these defenses.
I won't be surprised.
All right, well, everybody listening, please shoot us a comment, shoot us a DM. Go ahead and slide on in there and let us know who you think has some of the hardest schedules or the easiest schedules that we may have missed or we can talk about on our next show. This is who we think. We have the Ravens, the 49ers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Philadelphia Eagles having four of the easiest. And then we have the New England Patriots, the New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers, and Atlanta Falcons with four of the most difficult. So hit us up. Let us know. We absolutely will love to hear your thoughts, and we'll talk about them on our next show. Rob, let's wrap this up here with one game that is not currently in a primetime slot that is going to be a huge deal looking at the playoffs next year.
So the biggest non-primetime game I have is Week 15. Is the Chiefs at the Saints. Two really good offenses.
Ooh, yeah.
Might be the one seed in both conferences. So it's going to be a high-scoring game, I think.
That might be a Super Bowl preview right there.
Hopefully not, but it could be.
All right. Well, I like that one a lot. My big one, which I'm just personally looking forward to this game, I think, is going to be Bears-Packers at Soldier Field. Last game of the year, Week 17, in chilly December, right before New Year's. And I think this is going to be for the division. I think this is going to be to get into the playoffs. And I think the winner of this game is going to enter the playoffs with momentum to roll through the playoff picture into a Super Bowl. So I think that's going to be a big game for me. I think neither team are going to be atop the conference, but the momentum from this game entering the playoffs is going to be something that is just going to be a ball rolling downhill.
If this game decides the division, it's going to be a huge game. One of the biggest games of the year, I think.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much again for listening to our show today. Again, we are on YouTube. Check out the channel. We have some pretty cool graphics on there to kind of give you a visual on what we're talking about. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and we are finalizing iHeartRadio here shortly. We are also on Twitter. Follow our handle at Davis F Ball Show, and also on the Davis Football Show on Facebook and Instagram. So check us out on there. We post a lot of cool content, retweet a bunch of stuff. We have surveys and questions, and also DM us for questions for us to read on the show. It will definitely help us out a lot. Rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. That has so far been our largest stream of our podcast. And again, our last episode was the most listened to so far. And we thank you all so much for that.